welcome back. You're listening to the second hour of the weekend edition of the Korelin Economics Report. As you know, this program is being produced, this particular edition, I guess is a better way to put it, is being produced exclusively from the Silver Summit over in Spokane, Washington. Got an old friend with me right now. His name is Pasha Roberts. Pasha has been on the show before. Pasha is a graduate of MIT, financial engineering. I don't even know how to spell that. That shows you how slow Big Al can be at times. But Pasha has a real passion, and he's turning his passion into his life's work. Pasha is in the business of informing people of things that are really going on in our economy. I think that's a fairly good assessment. And you've just produced a movie that will be released in January. But before we talk about that, and by the way, you can watch the trailer to that movie just by clicking on that on our site. You also did, and I think it was very, very timely, a piece of film work dealing with the reality of Social Security. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, that was our first economic foray after a lot of financial video work. But it was basically a story about a kid who gets his, it's called Save Sunny it's on the web, but it's a kid who gets his first paycheck for $32, and $32 goes to FICA, and who's FICA? And it just kind of follows the story of him following the money and trying to figure out what happens and how the Social Security Trust Fund works and what's going to happen and kind of the demographic time bomb that's built into that. But overall, it represents just a way to use storytelling or narrative as a way to describe economic things as opposed to yet another documentary or a look at pie charts and numbers.
The thing I like about this guy, I have to tell you, is that I do what I do because of a passion. I don't do what I do because I want to become the richest person in the universe. I do what I do because I really believe in what I'm doing. You're cut from the same cloth quite a bit.
Yeah, I've been working for 3 years with no pay on this movie. We will hope to make it back when it gets out into the theaters.
I'll bet you do. Let's talk a little bit about the movie. We've talked about it before. It is called The Silver Circle.
Silver Circle.
It's geared towards younger people, if I'm not mistaken, 16 to 30, and to me that's younger, Pasha.
Right.
Okay.
I'm older than that too. So,
tell us about the movie.
Sure. Silver Circle. It is a story about an economic crash in 2019, and a Federal Reserve gone out of control. And some would say it's already out of control, but it's even more so at this point. And a group of rebels that are fighting back to take control of their currency and their lives. And one of the main ways that's especially interesting to people here at this conference is that they make their own money out of silver as a competing currency against the dollar. So a key part of the story is the rebels are fighting back and forth, cat and mouse, about what the rebels are doing and trying to shut down their silver operations. And if somebody wants to follow all the economics of it, it's reverse Gresham's law. It's happened in Central America over and over again during their crashes. If they don't want to and just have fun with the car chases and romance and all that, that's all in there as well. But the idea is really to have a great story, but with a real political economic backbone to it, with ideas in it.
What I find to be really interesting about the movie, and I know one of the reasons that you're here in Spokane at the Silver Summit, is there is probably significantly more fact than fiction in this movie you're doing.
It's become more and more so as we went in. I mean, when I started basically the week after Lehman crashed. When Lehman crashed, I said, oh my goodness, this is going to be the biggest, this could be the mother of all stories if we did it right. It took a while to format that into move over to the Federal Reserve and to turn it into what it is now. But that's turned out really well. And we sounded kind of crazy when we started. A lot of people were talking about Federal Reserve 3 years ago, except for Ron Paul. And at this point, it's in the news every day. People are more and more suspicious of it. And people are starting to understand from a storytelling, from a comic book point of view, if you're a comic book creator, which you're not, it's the ultimate bad guy. It's very James Bond. It's the secret society that's controlled the world's money supply for 100 years. So,
You know, I have to tell you, Pasha, the more I get into this thing, and I've been involved in this particular sector for almost 30 years now. But you know, I'll tell you, I'm a living example of you can teach an old dog new tricks. You know, I got to tell you, the more I get involved in doing some of the reading, virtually all of the articles that are coming out right now, kind of about the genre, I guess I'll use that term that you're talking about. I'm starting to see, unfortunately for me, just a whole bunch of truth in, I mean, something as obvious as Social Security. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Anybody
Right.
can understand that, you know, if they stop and think about it. But this thing regarding the failure of the Federal Reserve and, you know, the instigation of a silver currency or what have you, I can see that happening. And I have actually put my money where my mouth is, in the sense that Kathy and I buy silver rounds.
Yeah.
And we take possession, man.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's you know, we had to change the economics once in the movie already. We have prices in the movie and now it's 20 times current prices. So they buy a beer for $110 and talks about his life savings being destroyed. But when we started the movie, it was only 10 times. But silver changed enough during the whole time, and inflation has gone up, and the world's gotten worse enough that we just had to make it more severe, and it's still not severe enough for a lot of people. That's the sequel.
Well, a lot of people want to put their heads in the sand. Fortunately, not the listeners to this program, but they'll put their heads in the sand and they'll think everything is going to be okay because it's always been okay, whereas in reality, it's always been okay relative to where I see the situation today. But there have been chinks in the armor for quite some time now. But I think I think the work you're doing is absolutely critical for one simple reason. You know, for those of you who watch the movie Silver Circle, keep one thing in mind. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to disbelieve it. But you want to watch something like this with an open mind and really stop and think about it before you come to a final conclusion.
Yeah, it's just it's an interesting story, and it tries to tell the human side of what happens during economic crash, and it's the only movie I know of where the Federal Reserve is the bad guy, and just politically I got tired of so many corporations as the bad guy, as opposed to, well, the Federal Reserve is private, but still it's
and they're what I would call a closely held corporation, more than anything else. But I want to tell you, your movie is going to be out now in the theaters right after the first of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're going to be doing a screening tonight here at the Silver Summit, one at 6:30 and one at 8:30.
Right.
I was actually planning on going out and drinking a load of martinis, but I think instead of that, I'm going to watch the 6:30 showing of the movie, and we'll get Pasha back tomorrow. We'll do a little weekend special that we will air, giving my impression of the movie and maybe more in the way of insights from Pasha. Got to recommend this movie to you folks. It's something that I think is really worth your time. Going to have to pay to go to a movie theater to see it, but you know what? Nothing wrong with that picture. Pasha, I really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much. And Big Al, it's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much.